QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Preferences? Let's get into it with Intuit's QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Here we are in our Get Great Guitars practice file, homepage open. We also have the Open Windows open, which you can open by going to the Views dropdown, selecting the Open Windows list. That'll give you your display panel to the left, which will have your Open Windows, which you can open and close with this little collapse area. Remember that the Open Windows mean the Open Windows within this little gray area, which then you can kind of maximize and close out and whatnot within QuickBooks, the QuickBooks part of QuickBooks, which is this gray area. I'm going to maximize that out. Then preferences. There are a lot of preferences that can be set up and changed within the QuickBooks system. We're going to go into them in detail in the second half of the course when we create a new company file. So if you want to go to them now, if you have questions about the preferences and a particular area within the preferences, you can go to that section now and we'll have a lot of detail on each of the preferences. The reason we want to do that in the second half of the course is a few different reasons. One, usually you will set up those preferences, or you will have to set up some of those preferences as you create the new company file. So we want to go through the process of creating a new company file in the second half of the course, setting up some of the preferences at that point in time. Then you can go in and alter some of those preferences and do some more customizations for yourself. Also note that if you work for somebody else, if you start to use some other company file and you're part of a team working on the QuickBooks file, then obviously the company preferences to some degree have already been set up. You're kind of locked into whatever the preferences were for many of them as they've been set up already, and you're kind of going in and moving forward from that place. Although some of those preferences you can change, and again, we will do that in the second half of the course. So this practice file has had its preferences already basically set up, at least for the necessities of this practice problem. Although again, you can change some of those preferences, and if you have any particular one you want to get more detail on, we do go to them through them in detail as we set up the company file and then look at all of them. So you can find them in the Edit dropdown and go down to Preferences. Edit and then Preferences. So here's a list of your preferences on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, you've got the information within each of those categories of preferences. Again, a lot of preferences, a lot of different things that you can basically do. We'll go through basically all of them in that second half of the course in detail. There is one I want to take a look at now because I think it could have an impact on how you feel about QuickBooks and look at it as you go. And it's something that's outside of basically QuickBooks. It actually has to do with your operating system, and that's going to be in the desktop view. And I think you can get there by going to the Windows settings and then the display settings. But basically all it's doing is going to your actual computer display settings. So let me just show you that now. If I go to if I just do my search on my Windows computer and I want to see the display settings, then it's going to link you to basically your display settings here. And this will basically have an impact on the icons of QuickBooks. So meaning if you've been looking at the QuickBooks and you're saying, hey man, the icons you have over here are way bigger than the icons I have. I wish I had the icons that were that large, or maybe they're too big and you want them to be smaller. Then you can make this adjustment here, and it's actually within your settings. So I have three monitors, and I'm on monitor 1. So I'm on monitor 1, the one I'm looking at, and you can change then the size of the items you're looking at. So if I was to change this to 100%, which is my default, and I went back to QuickBooks, you can see obviously that my icons are a whole lot smaller. And if I go back then to QuickBooks, you can see your icons are a whole lot smaller. Now this can be useful if your eyes are good and you want to have smaller icons so you can fit more stuff on the page when QuickBooks needs to put more stuff on there. But if your eyes are not good and you want to have large icons, then you don't do it really within QuickBooks, although you can get to this section through this display settings. You can set it, go to your settings, and then choose your monitor. This is the display settings in Windows. This is how you do it in Windows at least. And then I changed mine all the way up to 150 so that I can now have something that I think is going to be easier to at least record. It's better to record. So again, if you have those small icons, then I'm going to close this back out. You can change the settings on the computer, which will then make these larger icons. There's pros and cons to having the larger icons. Again, larger icons versus having more things that might be populated on one page. So that's the one setting I wanted to take a look at because we haven't set it up, or in other words, it's not something that will already be set up when you just restore the company file. All the other settings we basically set up when we went through the practice problem. And so now that we have restored the backup file, the settings are basically what they need to be for the processing forward, although there are a lot of customized settings you can do for your data input and whatnot. But again, we'll go into more of those in detail in the second half of the course when we set up the new company file.